Welcome to Footy Talks, your regular Thursday lunchtime footy fix. Ali Curtis is with us. Justin Morrow will be with us a little later on in the show to look back on that game that's airing on TorontoFC.ca tomorrow night when it's that 4-1 win over Portland. But great to be joined by the general manager of Toronto FC, Ali Curtis, as well here on Footy Talks this Thursday lunchtime. He'll be popping up in the box very soon. If you've got any questions, we can get them to Ali if you talk to us through the Q&A function on the Zoom chat as well. There he is. How are you doing, sir? Are you staying safe? Hope you're well and your family.
Thanks. Thanks for having me. It's good to see you guys, Luke, Kristian, Stephen. Really appreciate being on the call. Yeah, we're safe and healthy and trying to maintain like a lot of families are. So not bad.
What's the biggest challenge right now for you as a general manager of a club in trying to make sure that your players first and foremost safe and healthy, but also doing what they need to do to be ready to come back if and when MLS is in a position to let them do so?
Yeah, so, I think you hit the nail on the head in terms of really making sure we can communicate as much as possible so that our staff and our players are safe and healthy. And, we've got some access. We've got a great medical team and our doctors. And so really trying to get information from local public health officials and push that information out to our players and staff, I think is super important. At the same time, we've put in a lot of different measures to maintain the fitness of our guys such that when we can get back to playing, they're ready to go. And so, our guys are working out 6 days a week. They have gym equipment. They've got weights. We deliver food for them so that they get 2 meals a day, 6 days a week. That's been great. And then really, the challenge is, physical contact has such an impact on culture and, on the environment. So really just trying to make sure we can do our best as an organization to stay connected to everyone within the club, from the equipment manager to the captain to our academy coach to some of our administrators, but really doing the best we can to stay connected as much as possible so that everyone still feels the sense that we're a team, we're together, and we're going to beat this thing together. And once we get back to playing, we'll be ready to go.
I imagine there's some dramatic changes with the front office work as well, Ali. Give us some insight into, what's happening within the soccer world in terms of recruitment and stuff like that, and how you guys are connecting and trying to stay ahead of the game for when maybe things restart so that you're in a position, obviously, to succeed.
It's a good question. And it's difficult because there's so much uncertainty right now. And so right now it's just trying to keep our positioning, but at the same time anticipate some things that might come around the corner. So all the uncertainty, I was listening earlier talking about, the French league and some of these leagues that may, there could be some interesting opportunities in the global football marketplace, when things quote unquote open up, or what that means. And so, we're still scouting, we're still watching games. I had a phone conversation with an agent in South America about a player last night. So we're still having those conversations and things like that. We speak regularly internally. I've got a department call later on this afternoon. Our scouting department, they meet and discuss, via Zoom and these different platforms, WebEx, regularly. So that's been good. And then there's just a lot of things with games going on. In the normal environment, you've got your reserve team going, you've got your first team, you've got all these academy, and sometimes you just don't get the time and energy and space to really focus on the long term. So, one of the positives out of this situation is we've been able to focus on some of the long-term planning about who we want to be, our identity, what are some of our long-term goals, how we're going to achieve them, how we're going to measure success, subjectively, objectively. So in that sense, it's been really good. And then just on a personal level, I think it's been a real interesting time, because I think all of us, I've been encouraging, myself, my family, and then also the guys on our team, use this time to connect with your family in a way that you never had, and pick up the phone, do a Skype or a FaceTime or a Zoom with a person or that has meant a lot in your career or in your life, and you just hadn't had the time to do it. And so I think all of us have been doing that over the last month or so, and it's therapeutic, it's healthy, and it's going to make us better when we get back.
Great inspirational words, Ali. Excuse me, no doubt about it. Wonderful to hear you and your family are doing well. Still here in Canada. Obviously, you're talking about internally there, discussions about your own players and evaluating the future for you. Last time we heard from Marky Delgado was an interview with me on TSN where he talked about maybe exploring other options going into his final year of his contract. Some of the sources close to me have told me that there is more development on that. Wondering whether you can give us a bit of an update in terms of the negotiations with Marky and TFC.
Yeah, so Marky is a talented player. You guys have been in around Toronto FC for a long time, and so you've seen him play in 3 championship games, and he's been playing the bulk of those minutes. If you look at his minutes, you look at his output, you look at all these different things, Marky's been a really big part of the success of TFC, and age is on his side as well. He's young, he stays healthy, takes care of his body. And so Marky was a player that we identified early on that, this is a player that we really, it's important that we try to extend him and get a long-term deal. I've been in talks with his agent for a while now, and we're at a point right now where we've reached agreement on a new deal, which is good. I'll leave it to Marky to discuss the term, but it's a good long-term deal. And then right now it's in the hands of the league office. Like a lot of businesses out there, there's delays and things like that. And so it's not finalized yet, but really working with the league office and his representation to finalize it as quickly as possible. But for all intents and purposes, we've reached agreement.
Ali, can I ask you about Marky's development under the guidance of Greg Vanney and also the culture, I suppose, that you're trying to set at Toronto FC? He struggled at the end of 2016 for minutes to get into that final. But since then, as you said, the core of TFC, the last 3 seasons, 2017, 2018, 2019, is that an example where a young player has come into an environment and has seen what it takes for professionals who have been in the game for a decade plus, to really show what Marky Delgado, what it's like to become a professional, where Marky has looked at that and saw what it's like to succeed at TFC? Is that an example to what you would say to other younger players at TFC, to how you can establish a core and become contagious, so to speak, in terms of him looking at other professionals?
Yeah, I think so. I will say, one of the great things about this time period in terms of how I've been spending it is I've had a really great opportunity to look at a lot of the old footage from 2016, from 2017, from 2018. And I've learned a lot about our players. Kristian, I mentioned to you, I had some time to look at Osorio, and just you see how each player has grown. And Marky's no different. I think he came to TFC as a young player, and I do agree with you that he's an example of how you can grow into a role. Osorio is an example of that as well. But Marky's done a fantastic job, really. Earning that job, really, and taking the bull by the horns, so to speak, and saying, this is my job, and you're going to have to take it from me now. And he's done a fantastic job. And also, I think Greg and the coaching staff have done really well. They've, not just Marky, but also some of the other players on our team. They've been able to really develop them in a positive way. And, I will say this, it's hard to get into our team. We've got big players. The club ownership has done a fantastic job in giving us the resources that we need to invest in the type of players that we feel can help us get into championship opportunities. And so, talented players come in, and it's still really, really hard to get into the 18. It's hard to get into the 11. And then it's hard to have that consistency as a player because it's such a competitive environment. So, credit to Marky for sure, because he earned it in all ways. But also I think a lot has to be said with the coaching staff, and I think a lot has to be said with the players around him. They respect him, and they know the work that he puts in, so they've supported him as well.
I can remember the early days of Marky's TFC career, still being there as a player, and he went away to a Youth World Cup with the US national team, Ali, and he came back a different man. And you're right, he did earn that place, but opportunity was given to him to achieve that, to become a first-team player. And I'm thinking of the likes of Jayden Nelson, who's just been to the U17 World Cup with Canada and Brazil. What responsibility does TFC feel in trying to get these guys irrelevant opportunities and chances to break into this first-team? Rocco Romeo, Jayden Nelson, some of the younger guys coming through the academy.
So very, very good question, Stephen. And I think, part of the formula or the equation, I think, has a lot to do with international competition. So when we look at even kind of our young players, our academy players, and then even guys, some of our younger players on the second team and on the first team, I think, it's a comfortable environment at BMO training ground. It's family oriented. We have all the resources that we need, but I think, it's important to have diverse experiences that can help, push your game to the next level. And you mentioned Marky and coming back from like a Youth World Cup, and then Jayden Nelson coming back from a Youth World Cup. And I think they learn a lot by playing with some players, that are at the top of their age group, and in international environments as well, where the hotel is not the same, where the players, the culture from where they're from, they have these little professional tricks that they can employ during games and things like that to help win the game. So I think international competition is huge. I'm really excited about Jayden Nelson. He is a special talent, and not just on the field, but really his mentality, I think, is really important. And so it'll be important for us to look at all of our players and to try to find ways that can help expedite their development. I remember when I was at Red Bull, one of the things we did was, we signed Tyler Adams and signed Sean Davis. And after a year or a year and a half, I think, in the off season, we sent them over to Leipzig and to Salzburg, and they had 10 to 14 days over there, and it's fantastic. And now you see what Tyler Adams is doing in Leipzig, and you see what Sean Davis. And the one thing that I would say is consistent with that is mentality. It's clear they get to see different environments and those types of things. So it's great. So we'll have to find different tools to help our guys develop.
One of the things about doing this Thursday lunchtime show the last few weeks has been the opportunity to get some old TFC players on to be reacquainted. It was fantastic to chat with Sebastian Giovinco. Last week it was Victor Vazquez. I'm sure you heard what Victor Vazquez had to say. And
no, I didn't hear about it at all.
A lot of the questions that we've had come in today have been about when he's going to be unveiled as a new Toronto FC player coming back to the club. But obviously you can't say a great deal about that. But when you have a club legend like that, someone who contributed so much, saying that they really want to come back to your club, do you at least have a conversation? How does all that work?
You guys didn't hear? We already signed him. After the Marky deal, we also got the Victor deal done as well. It's great. It's fantastic. Just, breaking news.
And Giovinco tomorrow.
I think it's great. We think it's fantastic. I also think it's a testament to the club and to the city. And to the fans and everyone else. This is a special place to be. And, we have players, when they hear, they love it. But we know how a football career is, and sometimes you move on. And a lot of times players, they want to come back. And I think that speaks volumes to the club. I think it speaks volumes to the fans, because they're the lifeblood of the team and the atmosphere. And, the players, they love the city as well. It's just so great and diverse. So I think it's fantastic. There's a lot of hurdles to signing any player. Whether it is a player for your second team or for your supplemental roster or, all the different MLS designations, it's not easy. You've got to find different categories, different international slots and those types of things. And then there's just this uncertainty of what's happening with the season. There's just so many different variables. But a guy like Victor is, his character and him as a person is incredible. He's a really, really good dude. He's a good guy, and he's a special soccer player that has a pedigree probably different than one of our players on our roster right now. And he's respected by everyone in the front office, and he's respected by all the players. In terms of how to get something done and all those things, I think it's a really cool thing. But there's still a ways to try to actually, get someone back on a plane and over the water and back into the environment. But who knows if with motivation and all these other things, and if that's something that he's really interested in, when you're part of the TFC family, whether that's a game or a season or more than that, you're always part of it. So we'll see how things go.
Along those lines, we had a question come in from Joe on the Zoom chat here, who talks about, and I'm sure it depends on each player's mentality, but one of the things Victor Vazquez said that was very interesting last week was that he's made mistakes twice in his career, and both times that was when he was chasing money. And the question that comes in, it says, what do you think is the biggest issue when it comes to signing a player? Is it usually the term or the money? And he goes on to say, The Last Dance, the documentary, has opened up a lot of conversation on if Scottie Pippen messed up by committing to such a long-term deal. Yeah. In your opinion as a GM, are players nowadays looking more for job security or to make as much money as possible, as quick as possible?
It's a very good question. I think every situation is unique, but there are some patterns. I think money is important. As we all know, you got to this is the way they make their living and support themselves and or their families. And so money is important. Term is important. But all those things, it's also, are they happy? Do they like living in Toronto, or do they want to live in California, or do they want to live in New York? To be honest with you, I think that, their players want to play for certain teams for a variety of different reasons. Perhaps they have family members that are within a certain, in a certain location. So there's a lot of different variables that play into why someone wants to play for a certain team. It's all, we've got Richie, which is fantastic. One of the reasons why we're able to secure Richie is also because he's local. I think we knew who Richie Larea was, and that type of thing. But in terms of after his career ended in Orlando, he came back home, so to speak. And so we're able to engage with him in a way that would have been different if a club like LAFC wanted to engage with him and those types of things. So I think there's a lot of different variables that play into it. Money is certainly important. In terms of how much you earn, but term is also can be important, and some of that depends on your age. Are you younger? Are you more towards the twilight end of your career? All those types of things I think play into it. Ultimately, as a GM, you want to be able to strike a deal where maybe it causes you a little bit of pain, but it also causes so it's a win-win situation. I don't think that you should ever walk away from the table thinking that I got this fantastic deal. It's a two-way street. So,
great stuff. Ali, I want to ask you about Jozy Altidore. At the beginning of preseason, he was pretty critical about the club in terms of the handling of Michael Bradley's timing of his surgery. By the end of preseason, he's leading the team out of the tunnel as captain of your club, which is pretty a remarkable turnaround. I know some grown-up adult conversations were had behind closed doors during that time, and I don't expect you to divulge everything there, but maybe you can just talk about how the club handled that and Jozy's journey from, piece A to piece B, as I described.
Yeah, good question. I think, like a lot of things, we all played the game growing up, and you handle things either on the training ground or in the locker room or, behind closed doors. Personally, I think that's a way that you handle, I work within my family. We handle things within our household. And I think just from a professional perspective, you try to handle things behind closed doors. And Jozy's meant so much to the city and so much to the club. And, I've had a lot of conversations with him last year. This year, the conversations behind closed doors have been excellent. And, I think our relationship has grown and taken another to a different level. And he's had a lot of conversations with the club and people in and around the club for many years. He's been excellent. Jozy has been excellent. The way he came in terms of his fitness, in terms of his mentality, I really think his leadership really took off to a new level this year. Really excited. I've got nothing but positive things to say about the way Jozy's been, and it's it didn't start that way. I think even in 2020, in preseason, there were a couple things said here and there, and we had conversations, but he's been excellent. I really think he's done well from a leadership perspective in terms of it's been a joy and a pleasure. I thought he's done well with the captain's armband. I've got nothing but good things to say about him. I don't know how else to say a number of different ways, but saying the same thing, that he's been terrific.
Thank you.
Matthew says he loves your mug and thanks for making Canada your home too. I just wonder if I was talking to Mark Panis, the chief executive of the Whitecaps earlier this week. He was full of praise for Major League Soccer at the moment for the way that they're handling the open communication between the clubs in terms of where the league is moving right now, what the possible scenarios are. What's the latest you're hearing, Ali, from league headquarters about when training might be able to resume or potentially even getting back on the pitch?
So a couple things. Well, I appreciate the compliment on the mug. In terms of making Canada my home, I'm going to have to, I just got literally a text this morning from my landlord. We're renting a home. And they're moving back to Toronto, and they want to move back into the house. So within the next month and a half, I think I got to find a new house. So all good though. Just in terms of, so we have these joint CBO CSO calls once a week. We've got CSO calls once a week. I've got a CSO subcommittee call twice a week. And I've got all these other committee calls and things like that, everything in between, where we're discussing, what's happening. I've got a call Monday, Wednesday, and Friday morning with MLSC, with folks from the Raptors and from the Maple Leafs, and things like that, just in terms of what we're doing, how we're being coordinated. I think all of it has to do with, one, we've got to work with local government to make sure that everything that we're doing is within the guidelines and laws of our city, of the province. And I think, that is first and foremost. In terms of when we're going to get back to playing and things like that, I'm not sure. Hopefully sooner than later. I think, you got to believe that that playing in some way, shape, or form might be predicated on our ability to do some widespread testing and those types of things. So hopefully public health officials and things like that, and we're moving quickly and safely. In terms of a date, I think it would be rumor more than anything if I put something out there. But everyone's itching to get back, for sure. I can't wait to see the training ground again. We can't wait to compete. I mean, to be honest with you, I was super stoked about this year. I think the team is stacked, loaded, ready to go. Excited not just for the first team, but the second team as well. We've got a new coaching staff in place there with a new head coach there, and also Danny is helping out as an assistant coach and that team as well. So excited for him to take the jump into the professional realm. So I'm excited. I mean, I was just like, we've got a good team. We were ready to go. I mean, we should have, in the first two games, we should have grabbed all 6 points. We got 4, which is still very, very strong. But in terms of timing, not sure. I think we also got to see what some of the other leagues around the world are doing, as well as what's happening, with the NHL, with the NBA, and, golf and some of these other sports. All of them are working are being coordinated. I was on a call on Tuesday, and I think, Joanne Neal, who is president of MLS, she's in charge of human resources and the chief administrative officer. I think she was on a call with the White House and those types of things. So everyone's just trying to coordinate and discuss and communicate as much as possible, such that in preparation for return to play. But in terms of a date, not sure, hopefully soon.
Thanks, Ali. Really appreciate you giving the insight today. And the fans that are watching here on Zoom and on the Facebook live stream as well, there are thousands of TFC fans who you've been able to talk to today. And judging by the comments, have enjoyed catching up with you. So really appreciate your time and stay safe out there. I hope you manage to find a house before things move on here. We don't want you out of home when things kick off.
Listen,
Marcelo Bielsa at Leeds United has added beds into the training facilities, so that's always an option if you want to move into the country, I suppose.
Listen, Canada is a beautiful country, and I love using an axe and a chainsaw. So if I have to build a log cabin, up north or 2 hours or whatever it is, I'm willing to do it, man.
I'm sure you'd have 20,000 TFC fans helping you out as well.
Listen, we're all in, all for one. So. I appreciate you guys having me on this talk. It's been a lot of fun. I hope to do it again. Thanks, guys. It's good to see your faces and hear your voice as well.
Thanks, Ali.
Well, the guests just keep on coming. It was great to catch up there with Ali Curtis, and now one of the longest-serving TFC players joins us. Justin Morrow plays a key role in the TorontoFC.ca Game of the Week this week from 2014. 2017, scored a couple of goals in a 4-1 win against Portland back in August of that year, of course, when TFC went on to win the title. Justin, great to have you with us. How are you doing?
Hey, guys. Doing good. Glad to see your faces. I guess you couldn't get enough of me, huh? You just miss me so much. You had to get me on here.
Stevie misses you a lot. Yeah, definitely.
I miss this guy. I love this guy. I love having him on all the time. We did a podcast a couple of weeks ago, so it's nice to see him again, and he's little. I don't know, are you filming this on your phone, mate? We need to get you a laptop or something so you can be widescreen.
Oh, yeah, I can fix that. I'm just on my iPad.
The fans love Justin as well already. All the hearts and the messages are coming in for him.
Oh, that's better. There you go.
There we go.
We even had one question. We even had one question from Tony who wrote in to say, is Justin ever planning on writing a children's book? He saw clips of him reading his favorite children's book on the TFC Facebook page. My 5-year-old daughter loves that book. Are you going to write a kid's book? Are you an author?
No, I'm not. To be fair, I'm a much better reader than I am a writer. My daughters love hearing me read every night before bed, but I'm not anywhere close to that. That would be good one day, though.
So the main reason we got you on this week is we always try and get someone related to the Game of the Week on TorontoFC.ca. It's a 4-1 win against Portland. You scored a couple of goals. In fact, that was the season when you were just banging them in left, right, and center, Justin.
Yeah. It was an amazing season for me personally and for the team, one that I'll never forget and that I enjoy talking about whenever I get the chance.
2017, just I think, 9 goals you got? You also got a hat-trick, didn't you, later in the season against New York as well?
It was 8 goals.
8 goals, okay.
We're just trying to pick up you guys.
I'll give you another one just in there. But anyway, you played the majority of that season as a left wing back, and then I think as we've seen during these the re-airing a lot of these games, you guys went to a back 4 in the final. What makes you being one of the best part of the big pillars of TFC down the years is that your ability to play at a high level, either in that wing back position or as a left fullback. It doesn't really matter. You probably wouldn't talk about this because I know you don't necessarily have an ego, but you can play at a high level at either of those. But maybe you can just tell us some of our viewers and listeners just how your team seemingly just adapted very quickly to both those kind of structures as you went down the path towards lifting that trophy, because it was a bit of a different tactically as you won the final.
Yeah, well, for me personally, everything worked out so well that season because of 2 things. First of all was the talent that we had on the team. Me being a wing back, I had 3 strong center backs behind me at all times that gave me the freedom to really get forward and push into the attack. And then in the attack, we had guys that could dribble past people. We had guys that could shoot from distance, and we had guys that could pass accurately over long distance. And when you have those things, it opens up so much space all over the field, and it really keeps the opposing defense off balance. They're always off balance. If there's someone dribbling in the middle of the field, they have to step out because that person, usually Seba or Victor, could shoot from long range and very accurate as well. So when someone's dribbling, you have to step out to them, because if they beat a man, then the next rotation comes. And with the long passing, what Victor did was able to just spread out the field so much. And so for me personally, that opened up a lot of space. And then the formation just fit me perfectly, as you mentioned, just my skill set. You know, I'm able to do a lot of different things on the field, but one of my best qualities by far is just my engine, being able to get up and down the field. And in that role, it was just suited perfectly for me. And at the beginning of that year, because I had a pretty good year the year before as well, I read one of Pep Guardiola's books, and it was talking about Thomas Müller not really fitting in, but they had this term for him called a Raumdeuter. And sorry, my German's terrible, but basically that translates to space interpreter. And I thought, oh my God, this is exactly what I can do. And what he does a lot of time at Bayern is he just finds space on the field, runs into it, and it's about the timing and the connection with his teammates. And that's just what I felt like I did all year. You know, there was space all over the field for me, and I just exploited it.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that, Justin, because a lot of your goals were like between the posts. You know, you were scoring like a certain football. So even although, you know, the guys mentioned that you were high as a left wing back, you were actually had that license to come into a central position as well. Was that an organic thing, or was that a discussion between Greg Vanney and yourself or the coaching staff, or did you just kind of take that opportunity after reading Pep's book and a few other things, and then Greg obviously liked it and went with it, or was it a tactical discussion?
It was a little bit of both. I think once I had some success doing it, the team gave me the liberty. And Greg, since he's been here, he's always given me the liberty and given me the encouragement to get forward. But it was really an emphasis that year because of the defensive structure we had behind us. But it was something I noticed, because oftentimes Victor would pull out to the left to get on the ball deep into the field. Seba would drop deep into the middle of the field a lot of times to pick up the ball. And so it would leave Jozy up there by himself all the time. And so when Seba would get the ball in the middle of the field, if he sprayed it out to the right, then I had all the freedom to get in the box. And I'm a pretty aggressive runner in the box. So I think that helped Jozy get open sometimes too.
Chrissy asks, what is your favorite goal that you've scored for TFC?
My favorite goal that I've scored is probably the goal against San Jose. I forget the year, maybe 2015, when Seba floated a ball across to me and I kind of hit a diving header to the back post. Probably because that's one of my best goals.
Because it was against your former team? Was it?
that always counts as well.
Justin, we just had Ali Curtis on earlier, and he just told us that the club had reached agreement with Marky Delgado on a new contract. So I was wondering if you could talk about playing with Marky, and you've obviously had a front row seat to the development of Marky, going from almost a fringe player and not playing in the 2016 playoffs much to becoming what is a true pillar in the midfield for your club. What is your reaction to the news and what it's like playing with him?
I was so happy. I know it's been negotiating for a long time with Marky. I sent him a message just now because I chimed in at the end of Ali and I didn't have any idea. And so I'm really happy for him. And we've been getting closer as these years have gone on, and we're roommates right now on the road. And he's just a great guy, and he does so much for our team. And I think he's really underappreciated. He's been there in all the biggest moments, as you guys have mentioned, just with Michael and Oso, and the relationship they have with each other shouldn't be undervalued at all. And I think he's right to get a new contract because the things that he does in there fit our team perfectly. And so I think going forward, he's going to be a big help to our team as he's been in the past.
Justin, I'd like to ask you about what it's like being a professional at the moment, because I know we're all going through different forms of emotions and going through different things personally, but, you know, you guys just started the season and now you're in a position where, you know, you're training on your own, you're trying to connect via Zoom. We're so used to turning up and coming into a changing room and enjoying breakfast and lunch and the fun moments together and the hard moments as professional football players. How is that mentally for you? And my follow-up would be, are you filling the time getting into doing some things that you maybe always wanted to do, but in the rigours of a regular season, there's just really no time as you prepare as a professional, like, you know, maybe extra education or things like that?
Yeah, as a professional athlete, it's really difficult, especially because our sport requires space. And so there's just no chance to be on the ball. Like, I haven't gotten touches on the ball in a month and a half now. And, you know, I don't want to go to a park for fear of getting a ticket, and I don't want to endanger other people when I'm out in the park, you know, so I'm staying inside. And, you know, I do my workout on the spin bike and connect with the guys on the team through our Zoom workouts and whatnot. But it's difficult mentally not knowing where the end is going to come. But that's just the professional side of it. As a human being side, I'm doing very well, because I've just taken a bigger picture, positive view that, you know, this is time given back to me that I wouldn't normally have. You know, luckily I'm healthy. My extended family is healthy. My daughters, my wife are healthy. So I'm comfortable, you know. I'm here in my house in Toronto, and I know that things could be much worse. I know there's real suffering going on out there. So I try and keep that big picture in mind. And so as a professional athlete, yes, it's difficult in this situation, but as a human being, I'm doing just fine, and I've gotten everything I need. So I just try and keep that mentality.
Great stuff, Justin. I think before we move on, there's just two things to bring up near the end. Producer Kevin has apparently got the clip of the goal that you were talking about against San Jose, so we can share this.
All right, let's see it.
Maybe share this screen. Oh, this is one of the Portland goals, I think, actually. The game that's on Friday night when you scored 2 goals.
Yeah.
The 4-1 win. And all the goals came in the second half, didn't they, in that one?
Yeah, they did. The first half, well, this is quite a story, but in the first half of this season, we had only lost 2 games. Leading up to this game, we tied 3 of our last 5 games or something like that. So there was a little bit of tension in the team. We had just gone to DC, and we tied 1-1, which was kind of a fortunate result. And so I remember this week of practice, you could see this celebration right here, the emotion coming out. This week of practice was tense. And the first half, Portland was playing defensive, and you know, it ended 0-0, but we had a couple chances. And one big chance I remember was Victor floated a ball over the top and put me behind the defense. And I was kind of indecisive. And at the last second, I decided not to shoot, but to knock it across the goal for Jozy. And Jozy was wide open in the box, but I missed him because I was indecisive. And so we go into halftime 0-0, and guys are pissed because we know that first goal is really gonna open them up. And Seba makes a comment like, we cannot miss that pass. And of course, a little in a different, angrier Seba version, but that was the gist of it. And so I'm feeling like I cannot let these guys down. Like, I have to make a play in this game because I messed that up for the team. And you could see my emotion after I scored that goal just coming out. And so I knew that when this was game of the week that this story was going to come up. But it just shows the mentality of our team. Like, our demands on ourselves were so high that year. And I remember we won this game 4-1, and I scored 2 goals. And Greg came into the locker room afterwards to say his pregame speech, and he said, you know, guys, congrats on the win, but I think we know that we're better than that. And to win trophies, we're going to have to be better than that. And I'm thinking, we just won 4-1, you know, but that's how we were that year. And we all, you know, after he said that, we all clapped, and then guys did their interviews, guys took showers, and we left, and that was it. You know, we were just never satisfied that year.
Finally, before we let you go, because we're running out of time on this week's Footy Talks, if you could mark it out of 10, with 0 being terrible and 10 being the best you've ever had, where would Stephen Caldwell rank on the list of your teammates?
Steven's a 9 easily. He's a 9.
I'll take
it. He
doesn't
get a 10 because he didn't stick around long enough. He those calves gave out on him a little bit too quick. If he lasted a couple more years, maybe he'd be a 10.
That's what I was going to say. Yeah. He's a calf.
Yeah, still looking for your Achilles in Columbus, mate.
Justin Morrow.
All right.
Thanks, Justin.
TFC on Footy Talks.
Thanks, guys.
I think that just about wraps it up. Another Thursday edition of Footy Talks. I can't wait for the next one to come around. Been a good few weeks of different shows, different guests. Thanks to everyone who has been watching. Veronica, Jeffrey, Elisa, Ernie, all again writing in on Zoom, and everyone watching on Facebook Live as well. Same time, same place next week. Stay safe till then.
Thanks everybody. Stay safe.
Thanks everyone. Stay safe.